Tired of chasing those elusive off-market deals? Sick of feeling like you're always one step behind the competition? Well, hold on to your hats because FlipBid is here to change the game. FlipBid is the revolutionary new platform that connects you with off-market properties like never before. Imagine getting instant notifications on those golden deals before anyone else does. Virtual tours? Check. Real-time notifications? Double check. Seamless communications with sellers, buyers, and other investors? Triple check. FlipBid isn't just another app. It's your secret weapon to the real estate game. Ready to flip the script on your investing journey? Head over to UnitedStatesRealEstateInvestor.com/FlipBid now to snag 20% off the Pro Plan. Yes, you heard that right, 20% off. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just getting started, FlipBid is designed to help you crush it in the world of real estate investing. Don't miss out on this epic deal. This offer won't last forever, so what are you waiting for? Visit UnitedStatesRealEstateInvestor.com/FlipBid now and join the revolution. That's UnitedStatesRealEstateInvestor.com/FlipBid. Your future self will thank you. FlipBid, where your next big deal awaits. Let's make some magic happen.
Universe. Media. Network. 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 Network.
All right. Well, news from the noise. I'm your host, James Brown, and I show people how they can make safe, secure returns through our pre-vetted passive investments. If you're tuning in and at all interested in investing, I encourage you to take a minute to join our private investor club so you can get exclusive opportunity alerts. These are the ones that we can't advertise to the public. So just go ahead and go to legacywealthcollective.com. In this episode of This Month in Real Estate Investing, we'll be breaking down a variety of real estate investing news items, including, here we go, Kevin Spacey refusing to leave Baltimore condo, Charlie Munger's words on real estate being a lousy investment, and Kamala Harris unrealized gains tax proposals to crush investor wealth. Don't forget, if you're watching live on YouTube or Facebook, you can share your thoughts and questions during the show. So we'll get those and we can reply to them. All this and more on this episode of This Month in Real Estate Investing. Let's start the show. All right. Our guests today are Ken Singh from FlipBid, Corwin Millette, and Trey Nixon is late, I guess. Hopefully he shows up. In that order, Ken and Corwin, why don't you share a little bit about yourselves, your background, and what types of investing you focus on?
Sure. Who wants to go first?
Go for it, Ken.
All right, there you go. It looks like it's zoomed in on me. So, hey everyone, Ken Singh here, founder and CEO of the FlipBid Network and a really revolutionary real estate investment application called FlipBid. We're super excited to have this rolled out about 3 months ago. We're doing some really exciting things, and I'm happy to be here on the Real Estate Investment Network. So, thank you so much, James. Give it over to Corwin.
Awesome.
Well, thank you, James, for having me. Ken, pleasure to meet you. My name is Corwin Millette. I'm broker and owner of Exit Realty, Locals Group down in beautiful North Charleston, South Carolina. I primarily focus on assisting investors with some investment projects myself. Single families is where I've been thus far. I'm working to multifamilies next to try to get some, I'll say some more clustered doors so I can stop the scattered site work. But James, I'm looking forward to the conversation today. And Ken, I'm definitely looking forward to chatting with you.
Awesome. Great to have you guys on. I know Ken and I have been in the same world for a while and did a demo of his software to some of my big groups. And Colin, we met a while back when I was on your show. So that was cool. And it's good to reconnect and have you on my show.
Awesome. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, thanks for being here, guys. I appreciate you taking the time and sharing your opinions on what's going on in the news. Let's start out from Realtor.com. Tacoma residents oppose controversial plan to turn vacant church into affordable housing. They're talking about taking this church and turning it into 51 different rooms, probably some shared rooms, not sure. But opponents to it are citing concerns about traffic, noise, parking, and housing quality. That's how they put it. So I'm getting into the co-living space where you're renting out multiple rooms in one home, in a residential area. So I understand these concerns. So what do you guys think about this?
Well, I'll jump in if you don't mind. I am a tremendous amount of my business that I do is affordable housing. I work with local municipalities as well as nonprofits that develop and create affordable housing, in around our community in various parts of the state. One thing that and I've done this for about 17 of the years that I've been in the business. I'm a little bit over 20 years now. One of the things I know is that there's always NIMBYism. There's the not in my backyard people. They don't want it.
Yeah.
They're going to give you all this list of all the things that they just said, which is traffic, so forth and so on. However, these types of projects, these types of opportunities service and serve the people that serve you. So if you are someone who has that not in my backyard, the person that works in the restaurant that you go to, the convenience store, gas station, etc., in some of these communities where they are in opposition, the people that work in their community can't afford to live in their community. So if you don't create options for them, then at that point in time, you won't have those people working there, or the people that do work there will have to make more money, which means everything goes up. We don't think about that. You've got to carve out an opportunity for people to, if you expect service. Does that make sense, James?
Totally. Yeah. I mean, so I'm in Colorado. We've got these mountain towns, ski resort towns. the housing's incredibly expensive. So, and then you got people working, lift ops. They don't make any money. They need a place to stay. And this similar to Denver, it's a pretty high priced market. It's no San Francisco, but people can't afford a single bedroom apartment when they're, working in the grocery store or the restaurant, those kinds of workforce jobs. So yeah, this is definitely needed. So we have to figure out what the solutions are. So
absolutely. Yeah. So I would love to, I agree with Corwin. I think this webinar is going to get real serious just based on some of these topics. And I agree, Corwin. I think a lot of people tend to forget that not everybody comes from a silver spoon in their mouth. And the fact of the matter is, my backyard being New York City, affordable housing has been around for many decades. And the fact that those opportunities are available to individuals and families that are, a little bit more in need than people that are a little bit more well off creates more opportunities for our communities. And the ones that, come out and say, well, there could be two reasons for it, right? It could be a religious viewpoint because maybe it's a church that's being converted into, into affordable housing. I mean, that's a different subject, right? Because look, you're not going to counter anybody's beliefs, right? There's one thing I say always when you go to a bar, there's two things you don't speak about: religion and politics. You just don't do it. I believe we're going to cover both of those in today's webinar. But no, Corwin's absolutely right. If you're not creating opportunities for these people, we're not helping society. What people tend to forget, some of the most successful, some of the most brilliant minds came from families that at one point, grew up in affordable housing. Some of the biggest celebrities, and they've given back tenfold, right, in the upcoming years. So if we don't give them an opportunity, how are we going to grow as a society?
Yeah, that's a good point. I did note when I kind of dove into this article that they only had 19 total parking spaces for 51 people, and I know with co-living, we try to have homes that are close to public transit because there's a lot of people that, especially in the affordable housing world, can't afford a car or just want to spend their money on other things. So it's good to have that close. But a lot of people can, drive a beater, and need it to get to work. So that's a very bad ratio of parking spaces to residents. So
I want to touch on that myself, and I just want to, Corbin, if you don't mind. This is a real story. So my family grew up in Floral Park, New York, which is a middle income community. Now the values on the average homes. I just sold ours 3 years back, 2.5 years back for $775. I mean, these aren't small homes and inexpensive homes by far. It's a very well-to-do school area. I lived on a corner house, right? And over the last 20 years, and this is a private home, far less a parking lot, I couldn't park my own car in a well-to-do neighborhood. So if everyone's going to have concerns about parking, this and that, look, things evolve, things change. You have to adapt to the times. If they're going to have people have issues with, well, how are we going to fit X amount of people into 21 parking spots and use that as a scapegoat mechanism to, show their, distaste in whatever's transpiring with affordable housing, they're going to have a problem with everything. Listen, again, we have to survive as a unit, as a society, as a community, because at some point, if you're good to others and you could just go ahead and ride that minimal storm, it's not even a storm, or the transition, at some point you become better as a society. I think you grow as a community.
Yeah. Corin, do you have anything else to add to that?
I do. So, Ken, I'm going to jump in and kind of piggyback on the back of that to say this, because this is the thing that we're not thinking about, right? Like, you think number of residents, parking spaces, boom. But wait, if you're someone that needs affordable housing, you don't have a car. You're riding public transportation. So affordable housing tends to be on bus routes or other metro routes, such as, either if there's a train in your community, etc. Seattle has a metro system. So what I can tell you probably automatically is that this property is either directly adjacent to or within a small walking distance to public transportation. That's how these people that occupy these properties are going to be served. A lot of projects that I work on, locally in our market are close to, now we do have some that are a little bit more rural, but those have their own parking, individual parking spaces, enough parking, so there's not an issue. But when you have less, because you have to get the density to make the project work, you're going to have one of the first things that everybody looks at is transportation. How are people going to get home? How are they going to get to work? And so you want it to be convenient to, again, public transportation. That is the thing that people aren't thinking about. You're thinking about traffic concerns. The residents, more than likely, all of them won't have cars. A number of them won't have cars because they already relying on, or they can rely on, public transportation to get them back and forth from work.
Yeah. And there's different levels of affordable housing too, right? So when you call it the projects, maybe an apartment building that's open to Section 8, there's that. The co-living, like we're focused on, that's different. And that, that may be a little bit higher cost, but under that, 1-bedroom apartment level. And these are in neighborhoods, right? So you definitely have to, the parking's the number one issue with the neighbors. So you got to solve for that, So, yeah, we need to solve all this.
I don't think Corbin's right. I don't think the parking should be a problem. I think there's more like a underlying factor that that makes people want to say certain things, and they just don't really want to. And Corbin understands what I'm saying. I don't think the parking is a factor. I mean, think about it. We got some of the worst traffic here in New York City, and it's not due to affordable housing. And there's tons of them out there. It's not the 21 parking spaces. I'll tell you that much. I mean, our system's backed up. It's been backed up for decades, right? It takes you 2 hours to get home. It's probably not that affordable housing project.
One of the things, Ken, is that, people have this attitude of, I made it, I'm in, close the gate. We used to joke about that. A particular part of town in our region, or area in our region is, once you get over the bridge, it's a different world. And they literally, at one point in time, they were talking about putting a toll road in. I'm like, a toll road in our metro area? That's unreasonable, not sensible. It's going to jack up traffic, everything, right? But their attitude is, well, we made it in, we made it, don't let nobody else over, close the gate, shut the bridge down. That's the attitude. We have to be more sensible and gain some understanding, because again, we need to be able to make sure we don't want to pay more, which means that people have to be able to work, that can afford to work and live off of the income. You made it. You had an opportunity. I'm reminded of a client years ago that they moved into a neighborhood, an elite neighborhood, and they worked themselves up from bootstraps. Them, their husband, I mean, they worked themselves up from bootstraps, were poor, moved into this more affluent, if you will, area. And then the condescending attitudes of the neighbors drove them nuts. And one day the wife just lost it and said, look, you guys act like y'all ain't never been to Walmart. Y'all act like this, like you've never shopped here or been here or what have you, like you're too good. Yes, we're here now, but don't forget where you came from. So that's one of the things that when people are opponents to affordable housing, they have forgotten their own beginnings.
Right.
Yep.
Sorry, I'm a little passionate about this.
I don't blame you. I mean, listen, empathy goes. You could tell when a man has empathy, right? And honestly, I wish more of us did.
Yep. There needs to be a class in school, every grade.
I don't know if you can train that.
I teach that to my 7-year-old every day.
Yeah.
You don't need class. You have to have good parents.
Yeah, it does come down to that, right? Well, let's jump to the next article from Realtor.com. Kamala Harris wants to stop Wall Street's home buying spree. It's saying growing ownership of single-family rentals could reach 40% by 2030. One's owned by Wall Street. So she's trying to pass something called Stop Predatory Investing Act, which is targeting the large investors, the Wall Street type investors. Invitation Homes, I think, was mentioned. So, and it also mentioned, I'll point this out too before you guys jump in. Her broader strategy includes building 3 million new homes, offering tax incentives for builders, and providing $25,000 in down payment support for first-time homebuyers. So, and it didn't really talk too much about what that initial plan, what the laws were going to be, but anyway.
So
you want me to start with that one, Corin, or do you want to?
Yeah, please, please do, because I'll look at this one's a good one for me too. Please do.
Yeah. So I I'm not, without getting too political. So I've been following the new registration that's potentially going to be coming in on both sides of the aisle, right? Republicans and Democrats pretty closely. Look, so at the end of the day, you're not going to make everyone happy. That's just the bottom line. But what is the reasoning behind Wall Street putting a stop to Wall Street or larger equity groups from acquiring single family homes? And I think the reasoning behind that is that once there's certain tax implications and structures put into place that could protect a lot of these very wealthy, let's call them the 100 million up in wealth individuals, there's loopholes there, right? And right now, I think they're the new the new the groups that are coming in that within the government, they have to look into like how much money, how much debt United States is in, and this may help assist in getting those really, really wealthy people to pay their fair amount in tax. Because look, we were printing out money during COVID, printing it. We added like 10 trillion in tax debt. I'm sorry, in United States debt in like 2 years, right? That's crazy. So there has to be certain, I think, vehicles in place to be able to stop putting America back on its feet. And this is just one option. Personally speaking, I don't mind it. If anybody's out there that knows what Flipbid does, I think that helps me personally and our users and our community, because now there's more opportunity for the individual investor, not the corporate investor, to take opportunity to not only create wealth for themselves, but also assist in dealing with homeowners and property owners and getting them out of a financial distress and situation. So I don't mind it. I don't have tons of 100 millionaire plus clients, so it wouldn't affect me. But I think what's going to end up happening on the back end is that we're going to start paying our fair share back to the debt.
So I'll jump in and first I'm gonna say that I am a private property guy. Like if you own property within tolerance, within reason, you should be able to do whatever you want to do with it. So when I see policies such as this, my first concerns are this. First of all, we're talking about, and we always approach this stuff from the making money is bad perspective. All right. So we're going to stop this, right? Because they're making too much money. It's greed, it's all this stuff. All those single family homes that these entities purchase, they bought from somebody. So why are we not factoring in that seller who made a decision to sell to that equity group? Because they did, and they had a choice. They could have sold it to someone else. They could have not taken whatever offer they received over here and went with an individual. And I've had clients who made that decision when it was laid out and explained to them, because, hey, I want to give someone a fair shot. I want someone to own this home. It is a personal, it is a decision that belongs to the homeowner as a right. The government interfering in that gives me a little bit of angst. Do I understand what the reasoning is? Yes. However, at some point, look here, guys, I'm pretty positive, James, Ken, I'm pretty sure at some point in time, if somebody dropped, if matter of fact, if you hit the lottery, I saw the mega or whatever go by me at $500 and some odd $1,000 the other day. If you hit that, and let's say that they gave you $500 million, you're probably going to buy a bunch of real estate. At that point in time, you're going to be considered to be one of the people that this is designed to prevent from being able to do that. Or better yet, let's say that you had a marvelous idea and concept, you built this business, and somebody came in and offered you $250 million, $250 million for your business. Now, oh, wow. Okay, well, I can retire. I can leverage myself with real estate. I can do all this stuff. And you start buying up real estate to leverage yourself cash-wise and have a return. You now are one of the people that is negatively impacted by this type of legislation. That gives me a degree of angst. When we open this door, because it's always the door opening. So when we open the door, we always focus at the top level, highest incomes, the mega wealthy, whatever, however we look at it. But most of us at this level endeavor at some point in time to be at this level. So while it makes sense to while you're here, when you get here, you're like, wait a minute, well, you're punishing me. But what happens when you open that door and it trickles down? Because at some point in time, this is not going to be legislation, if you will, for the mega wealthy. It's going to be legislation for everybody, which means that it'll trickle down or could trickle down to the common Joe, the middle class, if you will, like myself or us, if we are middle class. I don't know what you guys are, but you understand what I'm saying. That trickle down really concerns me. Go ahead, James.
Ditto.
Yeah.
That is a great point.
Yeah, and I just want to add to that. So I agree with you that it does give you a little bit of agita and gives you some angst, right? And it should for everybody, right? When they get to a certain point. So again, I like to share stories based on true experience, right? I was one of the benefactors of being able to get an SBA loan, right? Which is government backed, right? I was also in a family that that got approved for COVID relief. And if anybody knows, when you receive money, COVID relief, that money is debt, right? So that debt has to, in one way or another, it needs to be paid back. That's why it's considered debt, right? So now any any new a new group that's coming in, whether it's vice president, Republican or Democrat, they have a fiduciary duty, right, to somehow relieve America of that debt somehow or another. And so if there are certain plans in place, right, that they are suggesting, or certain legislations in place that may assist with a minuscule amount of those trillions of dollars that have accrued in debt, right? Then if you're able to self-reflect on what's transpired in your experience of living on this earth and in America, right? And in one way or another have either benefited from lower interest rates during COVID, 2%, 3% interest rates, getting COVID relief, getting this, getting that, right? And then when you make it big, right? Whether it's through lottery or investments, right? And you say, look, I made it, guys. I'm a multi-millionaire, and this legislation is in place and saying, look, and of course, I'm sure there's going to be, benchmarks in regards to like how much money you need to have to be able to pay your fair share. You can't say, well, I want to take, but I don't want to give when that's time, right? Especially when it's for the greater good, because when that greater good was coming to you, you didn't blink an eye to it.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think, we the whole piece of, incentivizing builders, because, some builders, and I don't know if this is, nationwide. I just know I've seen it as a practice in my market. There's usually a limitation on the number of investors that can purchase when a neighborhood is being developed and built. That's to ensure stability in the neighborhood by having actual homeowners, residents that live there, et cetera. So there's usually a cap on the total percentage when the neighborhood is developed. Obviously, afterwards, whatever's going to happen. But incentivizing builders in order to create housing and secure, if you will, stability in these neighborhoods, I think is very reasonable. I just again get a little bit of heartburn, when we start looking at it from the opposite direction, because all of us get up and go to work, and we don't go to work to be poor. You see what I'm saying? So if we're going to work to not only take care of our families and save for retirement and seek to build wealth and create legacies, then we're going to work ourselves effectively into the same space that we're now saying is bad. And it always comes across to me that the government says, people say that people that achieve high wealth are bad, and they're not. They're people. They just work differently than others.
Yep. Well, hey, let's keep things moving. That was good. From Realtor.com, Kevin Spacey refusing to leave $5.6 million Baltimore condo after foreclosure auction. I don't know if you guys saw this in the news recently. I saw an interview with him he's in a bad spot. And just to remind people, so he's an actor, and he was accused of sexual misconduct, and apparently his legal fees are just drowning him. So they're foreclosing on his home. So he's got to leave. Now, just a little background on this article. So they say that he was refusing to leave, but apparently his attorneys are saying he's not refusing to leave. That's their stance. And he's still got some time. So with a foreclosure, there's a 30-day ratification period. And when I calculated, he's still got some time to get moved out. So he hasn't refused and not left yet. But anyway, what do you think, guys?
Ken, please.
All right, so I got to tell you, I mean, the fact that this is even in the newspaper is ridiculous. Okay, so let me just start with that. I think someone's personal business like that. I mean, despite the fact that he's got some allegations, I mean, I'm no one to judge, right? Whether true or false. I mean, whatever the case is, right? It's his private business. What's happening with his private home, and I'm not sure why everyone cares. Maybe it's because it's Kevin Spacey, and they just need some more followers and likes and whatever the heck you do on social media, and get some more eyes on their content. But I live in a blue state. I mean, for Pete's sake, I mean, people are sitting in their homes for 18 years, right? Not paying mortgages because they know loopholes and how to stay there. I mean, the guy hasn't even gotten his, what do you call it? I guess, what do you call it? The due
eviction. No,
it's called due process. Sorry. He hasn't even gotten his due process yet, and everyone's making a big stink out of it. Yeah. So here's my feeling about this. If you're that concerned about Kevin Spacey not moving out of his home in the future, maybe you should start, considering spending your time a little bit more in a better way and just reading about things that actually will affect you rather than Kevin Spacey's life.
Good point.
Look. So so ditto, man. Because like what? But here's again the key things to kind of take out of this when you pull the factual out of it. The headline gets your attention. Yeah. We know what that does. If it bleeds, it leads. That's what it is. But when you come down to the factual piece of it, he ain't got a lead yet. So if that was you, wouldn't you be taking advantage of your due process? Yep. And okay, well, I got 30 days, 60 days, whatever number of days. So basically, if this happened today, but I got 30 days to move, if I don't move out, like soon as I get the paperwork that says, hey, this happened, then I'm refusing to leave. Man, come on, man. We're unreasonable. So all he's doing is what any other normal person would do, rational person would do, which is, well, look, I ain't got to be out. Man, I might be able to figure out how to save this and put this back together. Because look here, the fact that he even made it from where, I don't know his background, his, if you will, his humble beginnings, whatever that is, but the fact that he made it to being as successful as he has means that he is a gambler, he's a risk taker, and he is persistent, and he's talented, which means that you apply those same attributes to this situation and you can change something. So why would you just give up? Why wouldn't you apply your talents, your persistence, and your other attributes to this situation to do something or make something different happen?
That's right.
Let's jump to the next one from Benzinga via Yahoo Finance. Charlie Munger, most people know his name. Charlie Munger's words on real estate being a quote unquote lousy investment show the difference between knowledge and wisdom. I'll add, he says he understands that real estate can be profitable, but it doesn't align with his strategy. You know, he's in the business of buying businesses, undervalued businesses. And so that's his zone of genius, right? He realizes that he doesn't know real estate. That's not his area of expertise. So rather than jump in and not knowing what he doesn't know and competing against people like us that are in this business, he's like, I'm not going to touch it. So that's kind of the explanation for that.
Yeah, I'll touch on that. So
Yeah.
not everybody's, I guess, objectives of investing, long-term, short-term objectives of investing are going to align. If Charlie is some sort of formal, I guess real estate or investment celebrity, or a well-known name in his respective market or investment community. I've heard of him, but I don't really follow him. I'm just saying that, everybody has, different skill sets across the boards, right? And what they've learned and what they can or willing to learn. Doesn't make one investment worse than the other. It just means that that's their individual interests, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. But I don't think that one can say that one investment is better than the other. It's all about the individual and how far they can succeed in learning and educating themselves on mastering the art of investing in a specific industry or space, right? And my brother, he, just as an example, loves stocks, right? He's taken his money and some money and some inheritance from my father, and he decided to invest in stocks. I'm not a stocks guy. Obviously, that's why I'm on the show. I'm an alternative investment guys, to specifically real estate. Now, just to give you a real life example, we all know, we hear it, the markets are doing phenomenal, right? The NASDAQ, the Dow, right? The S&P, they're doing really, really, really well now. Now, why it's happening, I'm not going to get into it, but his portfolio is doing pretty well. But guess what? I bought this house and invested at the same exact time where I live now. At the same time, I received that inheritance. And when he did, and he took his money, put it in stock, I put it in his home. My house went from value, right, appraised 775 to 890 in 2 years. Okay. So now that's 2 years, right? So if you want to match dollar for dollar, I win.
Yeah. Antonio, our producer, just put in the chat here that his partner, Warren Buffett, says that his home that he bought in Omaha, Nebraska was his best investment. So, and they're partners. But.
So from the article, because again, that line, so you're McDonald's, right? You're McDonald's. For you, an investment in a hamburger factory is going to be like probably one of the best things ever, right? An investment in a hot dog factory is going to be a lousy investment for you. You don't know hot dogs, you know hamburgers. You don't serve hot dogs, you serve hamburgers. So the article really kind of delves into that piece of, well, look, I don't know hot dogs, I know hamburgers. So I'm about this hamburger factory in theory, which is I'm looking for opportunities for undervalued. Real estate is not necessarily undervalued, okay? And investors, there's more and more investors. And then we all know, you have like the beginners who don't know, and then they're overvaluing property. Like somebody, you go in, you look at a piece of property, this is where it's supposed to be. Somebody goes in and pays a lot more than what they should have paid for it. They may have a loss, but they then set the market differently. And now you have a problem trying to get the next deal. So again, instead of trying to compete with all these people, let me stick with the niche that I know. Let me stick with the things that have made me money. Now, his partner, on the other hand, he knows real estate. that's what he does. His first, like he said, his best investment, his first investment was his home. So he is the hot dog guy. I'm about this hot dog factory over here, and I'm gonna look here. I might come see you for some chili for my hot dogs, but other than that, you can keep the hamburger factory over there and serve hamburgers. I'm over here serving hot dogs, and I'm making good money selling hot dogs because everybody don't want a hamburger.
Yeah, and I want to touch on that too. And I didn't mention this. And Corin's absolutely right. Like, you should really just stick to what you're good at, right? I mean, you don't have to compete with anybody. But also look at the time and space we're in right now, right? I mean, we're looking at commercial. We're calling it the big sell-off, right? There are loan maturities popping up, left and right, where commercial real estate, and I believe you mentioned Charlie's buying businesses. So yep. I'm going to assume those businesses are occupiers of that real estate, commercial real estate, right? So if these occupiers, right, because they're not landlords technically, and maybe that they could be maybe a mix of that in his portfolio, but specifically occupiers are not doing as well as they should be, and there's opportunity in there to convert one business to another, which is just a completely different animal than a fix and flip, right? We all know that's great. That's what he's really, really good at. But also look at the time and place where he's talking about this, because you could pick up commercial real estate. And I tell people, listen, if you have an opportunity, by the way, guys, I'm not going to self-promote, but we might have some opportunity coming later this year. I'm gonna say that this is a great time for picking up businesses that may be in the reds on their books, right? Because we all know that the values are dropping, and especially if you're looking at occupancy versus vacancy rates on office spaces, and you're looking at retail not doing so well because of everybody utilizing technology and online markets, right, to be able to purchase things. Yeah, it's going to happen. We're living in that time and place, but I'm sure Charlie has an amazing strategy. So go you, Charlie. But again, let's not compare, because everything is cyclical, and there'll be a time and place for all of these things. And to little bro, I was just kidding for that dollar for dollar, man. You're crushing it.
I have a great point too. Corwin, you're talking about hamburgers. If you guys have seen the founder, McDonald's, they say that they don't sell hamburgers. They're in the real estate business. All that land where all their properties are is gold. That's where they make their money. So that's kind of an interesting thing. It's a business, but there's a bigger component with the real estate. So, and I was also going to say too, Charlie Munger's buying businesses. That's his zone of expertise. Real estate is not. So he's staying in his lane. But even within real estate, there are so many different ways to make money. Like you said, Ken, commercial real estate, office space within commercial, like there's so many different ways we can go. Stay in your lane. Like, you can't do them all. So that's my point on that. Any other comments before we take an ad break?
No.
Right, let's do it. Hear from our sponsor.
If you're listening to this, there's a good chance you work within the real estate investing industry. There's another good chance that you would like to increase the sales of your products or services. Well, you're in the right place. United States Real Estate Investor is a platform you need to place your brand directly in front of your target audience. With our focused, growing audience of real estate investing beginners, enthusiasts, and seasoned professionals, you can continually reach our captivated viewers and listeners with ease. To learn more or to get started today, just visit UnitedStatesRealEstateInvestor.com/advertising. That's UnitedStatesRealEstateInvestor.com/advertising. Get ready to increase your brand awareness and your bottom line. Attract clients with content.
Okay, let's get back into it. From Benzinga via Yahoo Finance, Florida and Texas could reap huge benefits if Harris wins, according to Grant Cardone they protect the property owner. So I don't know if you guys dug into this one. It's talking about how those states could benefit because investors and potentially new residents might want to move there and set up businesses because they're business friendly environments.
Look, that sounds to me like a repeat of when Tesla moved to Texas.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's basically the same thing. You create an environment as a state or otherwise. You create an environment where where it's not business friendly. Then it should be no surprise. People won't move, right? But businesses will. And what I mean by that is we see across the country that people will stay in an area that's completely unaffordable for them because that's where they are or have been, and won't move or move less often. Because there's some people that, look, I can't afford to live here. I'm gonna move somewhere where I can get better affordability, because affordability is not the same across the country. There are some areas where it is much more affordable than some of the markets that maybe you, I, or the listeners are residing in. Businesses move for business acumen, meaning if you're gonna, you got an environment, whether it be taxation, whether it be employment issues or what have you, in this location that restrict me from being able to grow my business so I can reinvest in my people. Because one of the things we forget is that a business owner reinvests, meaning they grow their business, they reinvest in their people, they pay their people more that are helping them grow the business. It's a win-win all the way around. It's not just I made this money. No, I made this money. I put some of this money back in here. My people made more money, and everybody's winning. The area has employment. They're business owners that are thriving because I'm providing jobs and paying people. It's a trickle effect. So some of these policies across the board, in conjunction with some of the state policies, will definitely cause people to move their business, because running in the market or the climate that they're in isn't going to work.
Yeah. So my thoughts behind that, and if you guys know me well enough, and a lot of my friends do, and Antonio, I think I mentioned this to you as well, if you listen, like I've always spoken to my fiance about potentially moving down to Tampa. I love Tampa and that region, like near Bradenton, Sarasota on the West Coast there on the Gulf. However, it's not about do we like, is this factually going to happen if Kamala Harris and Tim Walz come up as the next registered registered president, vice president in the in the White House. But if in fact they could push through with some of that legislation and some of those some of those plans that they have in regards to the down payment, as you had mentioned earlier, for $25,000 and start building new homes, I think that is going to increase opportunities for both homeowners, right, occupants of of these properties, as well as investment opportunities for investors. Because, as we both know, Texas as well as Florida are predominantly red states, and they do back the landlord, unlike some of the blue states, right? And investors are more apt to invest in those areas. But the problem that's been having, especially if you've done some research on like the markets in Florida, the homeowner association fees are going up, right? What else? Because of flood zones and other hurricanes and other I guess natural disasters or whatever it is that insurance has to cover.
Mm-hmm.
Insurance prices are going through the roof, right? Now, how do you make that a perfect trifecta? Well, you start building homes and assisting people that don't have the money, that live check to check, and they're first-time home buyers that get that $25,000, which could be, to be honest with you, the whole 10%, or even on an FHA 3.5% or more with a down payment to be able to buy their first home. I think that could be huge. And now when you open up that metric and increase that metric of potential home buyers that could get approved for loans, well, then people then start buying homes and then start increasing, and then money starts moving, right? The Florida economy starts booming. So I think some of that makes sense. I think that could potentially happen.
Yeah. It also mentioned some argue blue states offer more long-term growth because they're focused on public services and infrastructure. So something to consider there. And I know somebody mentioned the other day, like Florida, there's no state tax rate. Well, money's got to come from somewhere. So who's getting hit? Property owners, property tax. Oh, there's the teeter-totter right there. So there's no perfect
think,
solution.
In some of these situations like that, James, it's a use tax. I've in a lot of different settings. We talk about roads, but some states, not all states, but have road taxes, and they charge that or apply that at the gas pump.
Mm-hmm.
Which makes sense. If I'm putting gas in my car and I'm driving these roads, it's reasonable that I should have an investment in repairing, fixing, or otherwise creating new roads. Use taxes, such as sales tax, et cetera. Because that way you keep the burden off the back. You shouldn't be penalized for owning real estate. I just don't believe it. Now, should you be taxed? Yes. But should it be to your detriment? Should it be a penalty? No. The same people that use everything, meaning schools, public libraries, all that stuff, it's across the board. It's everybody. So it's homeowners as well as, people that don't own homes. All right. Why should the homeowner be responsible fully for all of that? Why? Because everyone uses it. So there should be, to an extent, a formula, which I think a lot of places do have it. Some places may be a little bit more lopsided than others, but short version, there should be essentially general use. And it's reasonable. I want to say the word fair. That's kind of but it's reasonable. Because again, if I'm using this, if I travel into an area, I make it a point when I visit my hometown, I make it a point to spend some money in town. Mm-hmm. Because I know that the businesses in the taxes and all the retail or whatever, some of that money goes to the town for them to be able to provide services. So even if I don't do anything but fill my car, my truck up with gas, I try to leave some money in town. I'll drive and be about on empty getting there because I want to make sure I leave $1 or $2, if you will, in town to try to help. It's use. Those roads serve me. The stoplight, traffic lights, stop signs, all those things serve me when I'm there. So it should be, in my opinion, it shouldn't be onus just on the back of a homeowner. I don't think that's fair.
Yeah, I mean, Corbin, that totally makes sense. But in the same sense, wouldn't the use case apply to land? You're using the land.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
I agree with that, Ken. I don't disagree.
But I agree with what you're saying. It shouldn't be all on the homeowner because look, I'm a homeowner, man. I'm like, look, if I tell you what my taxes are over here, I'm like, what do you live in a mansion? It's just a regular home. My taxes up the wazoo, but I made a decision to buy a house that sits on 2 lots. Okay, because now my kids get to use a huge backyard on a daily basis. I have to now pay for their use. Right? So look, as much as frustrating as this could get, I could tell you, look, like no one's perfect. No administration is going to get the perfect secret sauce out there. It's not going to happen, right? So sometimes you take a hit on the left, sometimes you take a hit on the right. But what I can tell you, and as James mentioned earlier, if in fact people start getting that first time home buyer credit of $25,000, as you mentioned, if these builders start building and people start flocking to states that are, as you mentioned, some are more affordable than others, right? And not even Florida. I've seen houses in Dallas, Texas, beautiful area. I mean, these houses are like $500,000. You get like a mini mansion. Like, what is this? I keep showing my fiance pictures, and she's like, "Let's move." I'm like, "What am I going to do? What are we going to do with the kids?" Right? But that's a discussion for another time. But at the end of the day, if they start getting some migration happening to these areas within driving distance of major cities, what's going to follow suit? It's the business owners, right? And then the money's going to start moving, and the economy within those cities and states is going to do a little better. So I think there is something to it. And again, you're going to take a hit one way or another. So you just got to decide what's the greater of two evils.
Yeah. All right, let's jump to the next one from Fast Company. Housing market map. Zillow's 2025 home price forecast for more than 400 markets. So they're saying they expect prices to rise only 0.9% from July 2024 to July 2025, following a 2.8% increase in the previous year. So they're seeing cooling. What are you guys seeing in your markets? I know I'm seeing it here. Price drops all over the place, more concessions being given to buyers, more days on market, all of that. And it kind of depends on different areas and price ranges too. So go for it.
So I'll jump on that one. So I'm seeing it, and I'm gonna frame it or phrase it more of balancing. And the reason I do that, I have a client friend of mine that would always say that business is slow for slow-minded people. So I'm not going to talk myself into a recession per se, but I will say that we're experiencing a little bit of, if you will, balancing, which is, we went a little bit, okay, hold on, wait a minute, the market ain't caught up to us yet. So let's kind of, if we want to go, let's go ahead and ease back a little bit so we can get going. It's kind of what I'm seeing. We're still selling. I mean, in my market, in my area, we have a national builder that is opening new neighborhoods, and they're not doing anything to be built. They're speccing everything. So they're building houses. I mean, they're selling like wildfire. And they're not having to lower their pricing in order to do it. They are incentivizing, don't get me wrong, but they're not per se lowering their pricing, which is allowing them to continue on. And I think to a degree is also giving our market, some balance, if you will, as far as inventory and opportunity. So, do I project that we're going to have a market crash? No. Do I, I don't. But again, I'm not going to talk myself into a recession.
Yeah. With limited supply. It
is.
Not, we're not going to see what we saw in 2008. Plus they've put some reins on the lending side too, right? So,
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't know if it's been cooling off or the market, the movement in the market, but what I can tell you is, as Corwin mentioned, I think there's some adjustments happening, and we're starting to see the early triggers of like the adjustment in the economy. I think we're going to be seeing the adjustment happening for the next couple of years. Yes, absolutely agree. I don't think we're going to have a mortgage-backed securities issue like we did in 2008 because for the last 15, 20 years, I don't believe anybody got a 15% 30-year conventional loan just by signing their name. But what I do think is happening is the market is starting to correct itself. And it's election year. People just don't know what's going to happen. Sometimes it's just worth waiting it out, right? I mean, this is not you're going to go rent a car at Enterprise, right? You're going to go ahead, you're going to commit yourself to a home. And if you can wait it out to see what's going to happen after November, because like I said, we don't know. We can speculate, but some people that are willing to wait it out not basing it on speculation, just, you know, they're going to do that because it's a big commitment. So I think that's what's really happening. The cool off is just a slight pause to see what's going to transpire after election year.
Yeah. Look, election period plus talks of interest rates going down, which is a double-edged sword. Like, all these buyers are waiting, and it could happen this fall, most likely from the lenders I work with, probably spring of 2025. But then what happens? All these buyers come out of the woodwork, and then we got bidding wars again, right? So it's
So
make.
let me even throw this in as something, because like we talk about, like, you know, we look here. If we end up with a $25,000, whatever it is, whether it's a tax credit or down payment assistance or what have you, putting that much money into our housing market,
Mhm.
oh my God, I struggle with that. Like, we expect for pricing to become more reasonable when we're injecting that much capital into the home buyer process. Like, really? So
Mhm.
that's one of my concerns also, is we talk about inflation. I mean, I was joking with somebody this morning. I said, look, when the last time you could afford to buy a whole carton of eggs? You got to buy egg one at a time now. I'm sorry. Look here. You want breakfast? Hold on. I can eat breakfast one time a week because I can afford about 2 eggs. So, but the real conversation. So, what do we expect to happen, and what is that going to look like? Because we're talking a forecast. Like, Grant, do I think we're going to have that type of program in 12 months from now? Probably not. But people understanding that kind of stuff is coming, I think will curb some people because they'll try to wait for it. But then I think on the other side, it's going to blow our markets out in the future. And I would love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I'm gonna say that I'm gonna tend to disagree with you, Corbin. I mean, you're my man right now. I mean, we're eye to eye, but I think the powers that be are a little bit more smarter than that by saying we're just going to give everybody a $25,000 credit and the economy is going to be great. I think what they're going to do is, first and foremost, 100%, this is going to be an FHA loan. It's going to be a government-backed loan, number one.
Yep.
Two, when you have a government-backed loan, we have what's called what is that? The interest rate of PM. I forgot. I haven't seen it.
Private mortgage insurance.
Private mortgage insurance, right?
Mhm.
PMI. That's right.
Yeah.
So I think that PMI, like, even though we're helping homeowners in the upfront, we need to expect that back in taxes. That PMI might be 1.25% over a course of 10 years, right? So I mean, the first one, I'm not an economist by far, but if I understand how government works, they're not just going to dish out billions and trillions of dollars into the economy for first-time home buyers. What they will do is incentivize them and then make sure that they keep it at a level where it's affordable still, but over time they're going to get that money back because government's controlling your loan.
Good point.
Well, I'd love to see. So, Ken, hopefully you're right, and hopefully I'm wrong, because I'd love to be wrong. But I look at what we did, like during the COVID years, how much money we put in the streets and what the outcome was for that. And we know that, you know, there was a lot of money out there, still a lot of money out there. But anyway, I trust and hope that you are correct, because I'd love to be wrong on it, because I just envision a market completely different than what we have, that's filled with greater complaint than what we currently have as well.
Agreed.
Yeah. Anything else on that one before we jump to the next?
No.
All right. Good stuff, guys. From New York Post, New York City real estate giant who ghosted lied to low-income tenants exposed by undercover testers suit. There's a lot in this one.
So I'll jump on this one.
Awesome.
So Funny enough, I literally today just sent an email out to my agents advising them there's a fair housing training that NER created at least a year, 2 years ago. And it's a great training tool because what I explained to agents or explained in the email was that when you get licensed, you go through all the stuff you have to do, exit or whatever, right? So you redlining, steering, all those discrimination, all those tactics and all that stuff. You're taught, okay, this you can't do. Then you get into the world, and eventually your natural preferences, your tendencies, if you will, start to bubble back up to the top, and that real estate education kind of sometimes gets drowned out by. That's where stuff like this happens, which is, oh, well, you don't have any money. I'm gonna avoid you and I'm gonna focus on this person, or okay, I just need to get rid of you. So I'm gonna tell you whatever because I want to focus on this person. That's discriminatory.
Yeah.
So, but the natural tendency is, well, you ain't got no money. I don't want to work with nobody with no money. So I want to work with people with money. So I'm gonna tell you anything. I need to get rid of you because I need to work with this person over here. That's the thing that as real estate professionals that we have to be careful with. You're a private person, you can do what you want to do, so to speak, unless you got a certain number of units. And that's when you trigger, these, fair housing rules and regulations as well.
Yeah.
But shy of that, as a practitioner, you have to be careful with that. And you have to suppress your normal tendencies or your preferences, because it's not about preference. All money is green, no matter the hand it comes from. That's what I tell my clients all the time. So look, no matter how you got here, whether you came here on 2 feet or 1 or none, it doesn't matter. I'm still going to treat you the same way because it has no bearing on you in a real estate transaction with me. So I think that's one of the things that we have to be careful of, letting our preferences or whatever else we have bubble over our real estate law and knowledge.
Yeah. Corwin, do you manage other people's properties or just your own?
So I do manage other people's as well.
Okay. Yeah. You got to know those laws. We've got a lot of new ones here in Colorado. Got to be very, very careful for sure. So.
Yeah, James, if you don't mind, would you provide a little bit more context in that article? I'm not sure if it was just discriminatory practices between landlord and low-income housing tenant, or.
Yeah, so it sounds like these are property managers, the park off organization. So they're being sued for exactly what Corwin said. People that had vouchers, I guess I'm assuming Section 8 or something similar. They were ghosting those people or just lying to them. And then the wealthier applicants, they're offering them unlisted units and reduced rents. So they're steering them, and that's a big no-no.
Yeah,
so they're being sued.
Yeah, okay, so I totally get it. I mean, Corwin's right, and I think he's a master in that space from what I understand. All I can say is, listen, discriminatory practices happen in every industry. It's unfortunate. It's the time and place. This is the world we live in. I wish people would just be a little bit more, considerate and we could all hope fair to everyone. But like I said, I used to say, hogs get fat and pigs get slaughtered. So,
Yep.
I'm gonna use that, Ken. I love it. I love it.
That's right.
I love that one. Yep. Yeah, I just finished. Every 3 years, we have to go through fair housing training to kind of re-up, because it's important. And there's a lot of subtleties. There's quizzes throughout the training. Like, what would you do? Sometimes you kind of go with your gut and it's like, that's wrong. Dang it. So it's good to go through the training. It's not exciting training, but necessary. Anyway, let's go to the next one from United States Real Estate Investor. Homeownership nightmare. Investors hijacking housing market, leaving families homeless. It's saying 1 in every 6 single-family homes in Q2 of 2024 are owned by investors, I guess, in hotspots like San Jose. I didn't know people were or investors were still buying in places like San Jose. Can you cash flow? I mean, maybe if you're doing co-living, but anyway, a little aside.
So I'll jump on this one because this kind of goes back to what we talked about before. First of all, ain't nobody hijacking nothing. I ain't seen nowhere in the article where they had the pistol on nobody. So nobody ain't hijacking, take nothing. We gave it. We gave it. So we're selling to investors. Yeah, they're buying. If you were an investor and had money to buy property, you'd buy it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and we're not saying one investor. It's not like one person is quote unquote buying up everything. It's a lot of investors. So that one, that's always funny to me because we're saying they taking over the market. Nah, they just buying property and we just keep selling it to them.
Yeah. I have a good example. I listed a home recently. We had multiple offers. One was an investor, higher price, cash offer. The sellers went with one that was just slightly lower, with somebody that was going to live in it. And it was their decision to take less with, a financed offer, because they wanted somebody to live in that home that would enjoy it. And they were also thinking about their neighbors who they really liked. They'd prefer not to have an investor with renters in the neighborhood. They'd rather have other owners. So that was their decision. So,
and I think there's an opportunity for a real estate professional to have that conversation. I know that we started having those conversations, because what my approach was and has been with my sellers is this: you will be who you're serving. Meaning, if you're selling a property now, one day you'll be a buyer. If you're not going to be a buyer immediately. So if you're only focused on money, if you're only focused on the things, cash, quick sale, all those things, unless you're going to be that same kind of buyer, you're going to compete with the person that you're prioritizing. So, we really should, quote unquote, in fashion, treat others as we want to be treated. So take the consideration. There's a, not that I can come to you and say, hey, it's a family and this, this, I can't do that. I can't give you a love letter from them or anything of that nature. All I can tell you is this is an investor. This is an entity. This is a person. However, you get to make the decision. Entity, they're not going to live in the home. They're only going to keep it as investment property. And if you give them the market, and again, it's a choice, but if you give them the market, what happens when they decide, oh, you know what, we want to cash out and we want to stop selling hamburgers and we're going to want to go sell hot dogs? Now they own the market and they can do what they want to do. They can liquidate, they can do fire sales, they can do whatever to the market. So again, it's individual person's option as well as their individual responsibility is probably the wrong word for it, but for them to do their diligence and make the decision that they believe is going to be best.
Yeah, I agree with you, Corin. Again, listen, there's a couple of things to this. One, the media, and I think you and Antonio, especially Antonio, right, can testify to this. The media is not going to put out titles in their articles that's not attention grabbing. That's one, right? So we gotta really take everything that media puts out with a grain of salt, right? Because we don't know the true matter of the scenario, right? Or the situation. All we know is what we're reading. And to be honest with you, we just put our own personal experiences and what we've seen and what we've heard with our own eyes and ears and say, well, does this make sense that these savvy investors are just coming into San Jose or whatever it is and just kicking people out like at gunpoint and walking out these poor victims of this hideous crime, and they're just walking this dirty like dirt road path with their kids. No, that's not happening at all. But the media needs to grab your attention, and that's how they do it. And I don't care if you're a homeowner or a tenant on the West Coast or East Coast. I've barely hear people going, "Get the heck out, family," or we're not going to do anything for you. Usually investors say, "Look, I want to try to make this transition as smooth as possible. We don't want to hurt anyone. We don't want to jeopardize anyone's families. What can I do to help you make this a smoother transition for your family? How can I help you monetarily to potentially help with the move or transition from this home to another location?" I've heard 100 of those stories rather than the one I'm hearing today through this media outlet.
Yeah. In this article, so I want to bring this up. It says investor activity spiked 27% in key cities, leading to a 3.2% year-over-year increase in single-family home rents. Now, I'm looking at this going, how does investor activity correlate with increasing rents? Like it's supply and demand. Like they can't dictate this market and the rents going up. It's people pay what they're going to pay, right? Whether they're an investor or a big investor, small investor, whatever, right? Maybe I'm missing something.
Yeah, I'm just gonna chime in on this because I worked for commercial real estate software companies that provide a large amounts of consumable data to both landlords and property management groups. And if you research, and I don't want to get in trouble for this, but it's not really fake, so maybe I can mention it. There is a company called RealPage out there. Maybe you've heard this. And
we're going to talk about it. They're being sued. Yeah, it's one of our articles.
Okay, so I'll save it. So I'll save that for later. But what we're about to speak about, guys, for you listeners out there, I think this plays into this question of how the markets could react based on the data that's provided and put back into our users' hands, like the landlords and stuff, and how that can affect market to market and then kind of spread like wildfire throughout the United States.
Yeah. Well, let's take another break and hear from our next sponsor.
Are you looking to elevate your business through exceptional content? Universe Media Publishing is your gateway to success. We understand that in the world of business, content is king. But not just any content. Your business deserves content that captivates, convinces, and converts your audience into clients. At Universe Media Publishing, we specialize in crafting SEO-rich web content, persuasive copywriting, and marketing copy that resonates with your audience. We don't just write, we engage, we connect, and we deliver results. Imagine your brand's voice amplified, your message crystal clear, and your presence dominating the digital landscape. That's the power of partnering with Universe Media Publishing. Don't let your business just blend in. Stand out, be heard, and make an impact. Connect with us at Universe Media Publishing, and let's turn your vision into reality. Visit universemediapublishing.com today. Your story, our expertise. Together, we'll create magic.
All right. Since we're on that subject that we were just talking about with RealPage, we'll jump into that article. So let's see, from Politico, titles Feds sue software company for enabling nationwide collusion on rent. So they're talking, like you were saying, there's this data, sensitive data that they're sharing between landlords, allowing them to collude on pricing, supposedly. So, I mean, is it collusion? We still have supply and demand in the market, right?
Yeah, so I have to be very careful how I word this, considering the space I'm in currently and the fact that I worked with RealPage's direct competitor Yardi and know many people in MRI, which is the top 3 MRI software. The antitrust laws that were broken, obviously there was definitely a lot of time put in, looking into this whole idea of collusion. The investigation wasn't done overnight, and I believe the U.S. Department of Justice did their due diligence to, in fact, come up with a logical explanation why that would break antitrust laws. So what I can tell you is, if that was the case and these allegations hold true to their nature, and in fact it is true, then that could become a serious problem, because we're living in 2024. This is not 1990. This is not 1980, where we kind of like just speak to our neighbors and say, hey, listen, what do you think I can get for this 2-bedroom apartment that I'm renting out? Right? A lot of us, depend on data, right? You guys out there at USREI, us on the tech side, Corbin on the brokerage side, whether it's comps, it's ARVs, whatever it is, everybody bases their decision. I would say 95% of people in the United States base their decisions on raw data. Now, if that raw data is somehow manipulated in some sort of way, or is used to coerce a sale for a client, or show that our data is much more powerful than the others, and this is what landlords can expect in regards to occupancy status and what their valuations are on their assets based on the rents that they're collecting, and using that to coerce additional clients, new prospects, that could cause a major problem. That could cause a major problem in the United States, especially when RealPage, I believe they're based out of Dallas, but they're definitely based out of Texas. But this could cause a huge problem with big data companies providing and actually convincing their clients to hang tight, and because their data is stronger and more powerful, and then people start to believe that if you keep repeating yourself over and over, and people start depending on what you're putting out there, they become almost like it becomes normalized. And when it becomes normalized, right, it becomes a part of your fabric, right, of your everyday living, which, whether you're a landlord, a seller, an investor, once it becomes a fabric of who you are and how you do your business, that spreads. As I was telling, I mentioned earlier, it could spread very quickly. And if it spreads, it could cause a huge problem. And I think the government's putting a stop to that.
So when I saw this article, I think I saw it about a week ago. I think whenever I saw it, the first thing I thought about is, first thing I said in my head, I was like, okay, are you kidding me? And then the second thought was, this exposes. So we're trying to put it on a company. The company sells software. All right. So we're trying to put it on a company, but we're also making mention of the landlord. So if you're so first, one of the things I was thinking, if you're using this software, then now you could be part of an antitrust lawsuit. If you're a landlord, a regular old mom and pop, maybe you use this platform because your family over time has accumulated 10 or 15 rentals, and you're using this platform to help you in managing, if you will, that business. Now you can be a part of, or possibly be part of, a class action lawsuit. Like, wait a minute, what? For antitrust. Like, wait a minute, what? The other thing I thought about is, and I kind of went back to this in my mind's eye, like, well, and again, no slight, but when you think about Zillow and their estimates, didn't we use Zillow and Zestimates as private owners to price our house for sale? So are we exposed over there as well? Those are some of the things that I was thinking about. Like, are you kidding me? But I mean, I see where the train is going, but those are some of the things that I was thinking about, that now we need to be mindful of, do we need to stay off of those kind of sites, if you will, because it can be construed to be a Sherman Antitrust Act violation for us to do so. So I found that to be extremely interesting, but I am most certainly very, very concerned about the average mom and pop landlord who may be using a platform like this.
So I want to touch on that, Corin. So again, I'm in that industry, and I can assure you, the average mom and pop is not using RealPage data. It's very expensive.
Okay.
I worked for Yardi. My average sale for the contract was $150,000 a year. So the average mom and pop is definitely, and by the way, it's like top 3: RealPage, Yardi, MRI.
Okay.
The average mom and pop is not contracting RealPage for data. What is happening, the 80%, 70%, because there are, well, maybe 60 and 40 now. I haven't followed up with them much, but they have a residential sector and they have a commercial sector. They have a government sector. They have a student housing sector. There's different verticals of who they sell to, right? They're cloud-based SaaS solutions that encompass their dashboard and their models and their data and stuff like that with various products. They sell a few of them, but on the residential side, we're still talking about like multifamily sectors, right? Multifamily landlords, like large organizations and landlords that have hundreds of units, right? 5 to 10 to $20 million of square foot of space assets under management, right? But what's happening is let that trickle down, a trickle effect of like, okay, so they're using it. They're setting the let's say the Class A, Class B buildings, right, in a certain market is renting out for this much because they can afford this data. But then the neighboring smaller multifamily buildings are saying, look, we could go ahead and rent this out for $2,500. They said they rented out for $2,800, even though it really should be $2,500, $2,300. And then the outskirts of that, right? Then you have the smaller homes, and even though they're not using RealPage's data, they're trying to emulate what's happening in the neighboring markets. That's I think more so realistic than the mom and pops that are utilizing that data.
Anything else to add on that one?
No, I don't think so.
All right. Let's go to the next one from Deseret News. I guess that's how you say it. Utah real estate disruptor Homie files federal antitrust action against NAR being National Association of Realtors. They're whining because we're talking about commissions, and if anybody's following what's going on with the NAR lawsuit, basically we've removed any commissions paid to buyer agents from the MLS. This is actually better for Homie, I would think, because if they were only offering, say it's 1%, where buyer agents might be expecting 3%, say, just numbers. Before, if a buyer agent saw only 1% being offered to them to bring a buyer, they were less likely, and it's their fiduciary duty to bring their buyers to any listing. But if they were avoiding these listings from Homie, that's what they're whining about, and it makes sense, and that's what this whole lawsuit was about. So now, without having those commissions being displayed in the MLS, buyer agents won't know what's being offered, and we can go down a rabbit hole, but it's all negotiable anyway. So they're basically suing NAR for that.
So that small piece in the middle, right? Ready? Because
let's go.
let's make it simple.
Yeah.
So you're suing NAR like they're telling people not to show your property. They're not. The reason why people aren't showing your property is because they're not going to work for that dollar amount. Their buyer maybe can't afford to pay the difference in what their fee is, whatever it is. Has nothing to do with NAR or anything else other than the fact that whatever you're offering in compensation isn't of interest to whoever or whatever situation. The settlement commissions coming out of MLS isn't going to change.
No.
Isn't going to change it if your
Good
commission
point.
is the same. Because if you're still offering the same compensation, if my agreement with my client says I'm going to get X, but you're offering M, then that I need more to get the X. So if you're not going to pay more and my client can't pay the more, then I'm gonna leave you over here at the M and we're gonna go find somebody else that can cover X.
Yeah.
That nothing changes, it's nothing different. Why I don't understand why we're blaming people for it. Go ahead, Ken.
Okay, so are we talking about Homie, HOMIE?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, so this is the first I've heard of them. To be honest with you, I'm just doing a quick research who they are.
They're Utah-based.
Utah in Arizona now, it seems like, too. I mean, literally on Google it says you'll save thousands in real estate commissions is like their slogan.
Yep.
So here's the thing. Now, I'm not exactly sure why this is a concern of theirs than over anybody else for that matter, that allows agents to be able to sellers to list homes or agents to list homes and provide a platform of buying and selling. This is not a personal attack against Homie. There is a transition happening, and it just seems like they just don't know how to pivot. That's what it seems like. Now they could start whatever, they have a right? We live in the state, a land of opportunity, and they have rights as a business to do whatever they like. They want to create a lawsuit, but in regards to to fairness, and it says, look, Homie takes a stand addressing industry fairness. To be honest with you, why are they complaining about the commissions? Is it because it's hurting their bottom line, or are they really looking out for the best interest of the homeowner or seller or buyer?
And it's interesting. A friend of mine sold his house quite a few years back using I think it was, I won't say the name of the company, but a similar discount listing company like that, and it ended up being a disaster. I mean, I don't remember all the details. Probably sat on the market longer. They weren't offering enough compensation for buyer agents to bring their buyers, and now buyers have to have an agreement. Except in Colorado, it's not required, but they're going to have an agreement with their buyer agent that they're going to pay out of pocket unless that compensation comes from the seller in a negotiation. It's a negotiation now. It's not displayed on the internet. But yeah, if you're a seller and you're shortchanging that buyer agent that's bringing you a buyer, you're shooting yourself in the foot. My opinion.
No, and I agree. That's what I mean by pivoting, right? You can become very creative. You just need to educate yourself. As I mentioned earlier, life is ever changing, right? Things are constantly evolving, constantly changing. You have to learn to adapt to these changes. I mean, I'm not sure. I mean, I'm sure Homie has a very reputable business, but what are you going to do? You're going to stay in litigation for many, many years and just keep fighting the powers that be. You're going to have to learn to get creative. That's like you just said, instead of complaining and whining and think you're standing up for rights, there's power. There's people out there that are much more powerful than you, Homie. No pun intended. And I think that you just need to learn how to work smarter, not harder, and learn how to, like I said, like adapt.
Yep. We're always going to see these discount brokerages trying to figure something out, and then it kind of just comes back to whatever. I don't know how to put that in words, but money's money.
But the next homie's going to come up, and they're going to say, "Listen, we're not trying to sue anybody. We don't care. We're fine with this. We found a new business model, right? That works for everyone. And it's a win-win-win situation, and we figured it out. And they're the one that's going to excel."
Yeah. That's the luck. Yeah. All right, let's go to our next article from Boston.com. A Sagamore Beach resident says she can't sell her house because of this new trend. So the trend, you guys have probably heard, pickleball. Pickleball is that new sport, the fastest growing sport, but it's loud. So the balls hit with the rackets are super noisy. And so they're shutting down some of these courts. But like this one, I guess it said 50 feet from her property. So she's having a hard time selling.
I'm going to let Corin take this because there's a lot to digest here and personally make fun of.
So if you own a house and they do this, right? So like, it don't just happen. Like nobody automatically builds a landfill next to your property without you knowing it, unless you stuck your head in the sand or otherwise, just was not engaged in anything in your community. There's notices, all that stuff is zoning, whatever it is, but there's going to be something, you're going to know something. Better yet, when you see them over there scraping the dirt, that should be a flag. Ding, ding, ding. What y'all doing?
Yeah.
So you waited until they done put the pickleball courts in. They done got people on the courts playing. That's when you decide after all of this that, I want to sell my house. And it's your fault that I can't sell it because you put the pickleball courts in.
Yeah.
I should have sold it before you did because I knew they were coming because I watched you build it. If they're 50 feet away from me, I couldn't look out my kitchen window without seeing them, right?
Right.
So
I think the problem though is like it's a new sport and people didn't know, it's noisy. Like they might think tennis, you can hear the racket. That's not a big thing, but
look here, tennis loud if you're losing.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm gonna touch on Karen's problem here. So I feel like there's way more to the story than just the noise. Okay, I feel like there's some personal issues that this woman is going through and blaming the pickleball. And if she's saying that this is a new sport that's extremely loud, that they built these pickleball courts, definitely has never heard a bunch of 10-year-olds bouncing a basketball past your house in Queens. Okay. So you hear that ting, 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 ting playing in the streets all day long. This is gonna bring you guys back to like Will Smith and DJ Jazzy Jeff's summertime days, right? So like you can hear those basketballs all day long. So I'm sorry from a person and a young boy that used to live across the street from a public school with basketball courts. You know what? I'm sorry to tell you, like, if the pickleball is causing that big of a commotion and you're having trouble selling it, well, you know what? I mean, we sold our house and we made a profit, and it was much noisier than pickleball.
I love this. So I have 3 solutions. Number 1, I don't know how you'd market it to deaf people, right? You can't do that with fair housing laws, but maybe there's some way. They're not going to care. They can't hear it, right? That's number 1. Number two, market it to people that like pickleball and they don't mind. I mean, I know somebody that had to sell a house that was right next to a train track. In fact, I was looking at one point and I'm like, oh God, how am I going to sell this? The train goes right behind the fence. This guy, he's like, what am I going to do? He had the fence painted with trains and stuff. He put a ladder against the fence and marketed it to people with kids that wanted to see the train go by, right? Boom, sold. Third idea. Can we get like a virtual verbal NDA on this? I think this is brilliant. Redesign the paddles and the balls so they're not loud. There we go. Solution. Make a killing. So those are my solutions.
Or I got a fourth solution, James. I think you need to reach out to this lady and sell her home.
Yeah.
That's what I think you should do.
Let's go. Opportunity.
Yeah, but no, there's just way too much to that story. I don't think pickleball is going to bother anybody from 40, 50 feet away. I mean, that's just ridiculous.
Yeah. Antonio said he grew up in a train house. Yeah. I lived under the flight path of the airport in Anchorage. If I went back, it'd probably drive me crazy, but I grew up with it.
That's right.
I didn't.
Listen, people live, within a few miles from every major airport in America. Forget pickleball. You have a plane flying over your house every 5 to 10 minutes. If pickleball is bothering you, everything's going to bother you. Where are you going to live?
Yeah. Yeah. All right. That was a fun one. Next news item from United States real estate investor, Kamala Harris's unrealized gains tax proposal. Will it crush the real estate market and destroy investor wealth? Have you guys been following this? So it's targeting high net worth individuals with over 100 million in assets. So again, the big guys saying the tax could spike property prices, reduce market liquidity, and burden investors with taxes on gains they may never realize. I'm trying to get my head around this because normally you're paying capital gains tax at the end, not in the middle where you don't know what that gain is or loss, right? So it's a weird one. It says, these are some of my notes. I'm like, how would this cause prices to surge? Like if this would suck, especially us smaller investors getting hit with this tax. But like Grant Cardone chimed in on this. He's like, if you had a house worth $440,000, this tax would increase. They'd have to basically sell it for $640,000. So $440,000 to $640,000 is $200,000 tax hit that would make them have to sell it. But he doesn't talk about the fact that this is still supply and demand. No matter if you're an investor and you got a $200,000 increase, you have to sell your house for. If somebody's not going to pay that, like we as agents, as sellers, we don't dictate the price. It's the buyers. So they're going to have to just take the hit, right? They can try to get that higher price, but it's supply and demand. So,
yeah, I'll just chime in real quickly on that. Like,
help me out.
First of all, I don't really think it's going to make much of a difference outside of the top 0.0001% of America. I really don't think so. I honestly, if you have $100 million in net worth and like especially in real estate, you're not most of the investors, even including Grant Cardone, is not buying many single family homes. They're buying like resorts and condos and like multifamily properties with like 20, 30, 50, 100 units, right? And then, to be honest with you, if you own 100 pieces of property like that, or let's say even like 50 pieces of property like that, let's say even 30 pieces of property like that, the whole idea is like, yeah, they're increasing in value over time, and all people are doing, and we all know the trick. Yeah, liquidate, buy the next one, liquidate, sell high, buy the next one right off the capital gains, right? Because you're just taking the money. That money's not being circulated, it's being cut. I'm not saying it's fair to these people that they got in there, but look, at the end of the day, I don't really think it should be a big concern to like the majority of the world.
Yeah.
To be honest with you.
Yeah.
So, this kind of goes to one of the things we were talking about a little earlier. Where my, heart palpitations or angst come, which is, does this, open up a potential can of worms that this may trickle down to, lower income, people. I mean, the realization is that, dollar for dollar, percentage wise, dollar for dollar, of a more wealthy person should pay more dollar for dollar than someone who is of much lower wealth, right? We're talking about the top, if you will, 1%, or maybe a little bit larger percentage than that, but we're talking about a very, if you will, rather elite group of people that these things would apply to. I don't necessarily believe it's completely unreasonable, but I'm always sensitive to what happens on the trickle effect. Right now, this is a strategy to try to relieve debt, to continue to be able to provide whatever or do whatever that the government may decide they want to do, however that may look or work. At some point in time, when their contribution doesn't cover it, does that expose us to other people further down the chain, so to speak, to being exposed to that themselves? That's a question I have. But I don't think it's completely unreasonable. Do I think it's going to stifle the market? No. People are going to buy property, period. There's more than 99% that this does not affect, probably buy more real estate than the 1% it does. So do I think it's going to stifle the market? I don't.
Yeah. I always think about like who's voting on these things. A lot of times it's politicians. They're wealthy, they own real estate, and they don't want to get dinged with these crazy taxes and rules. So hopefully that helps balance it out a little bit. It's usually,
exactly.
It depends on what end of these laws you're on.
Yeah, again, like I said, guys, there is no perfect formula to this, right? We're not going to have any administration come out there and just knock it out of the park, right? Because not only are you adopting previous administration issues, maybe even past a few administration issues that we're still trying to clean up, right, at the current date. But now moving forward, the other administrations have to clean up the current administrative issues. I mean, it's cyclical, right? They're going to have to keep, they're going to have to keep moving, right? You're going to have to keep adapting changes. It's like, it's all testing the markets. That's all it is. They can't just stop doing, like, they can't just say, listen, guys, we have no legislation. We don't know what's happening. We're just not going to even try because I know it's not going to be perfect. It just doesn't work like that. So they have to try something. And look, it's government. So if they don't show that they're putting their best foot forward and putting something tangible into effect, right? Again, it's their jobs, just like it's our jobs. We have to constantly keep working, and their job is to put this legislation out, these new rules out, these new laws out, and they're not perfect. But someone's going to get the shorter end of the stick. But the idea, as Corwin mentioned from the very, very beginning, and I kind of chimed in, we're all together in on this, right? We all just got to do our part and just keep moving forward. As long as our families, our kids and grandkids are safe and sound and they're progressing in life, that's all we can expect. Life isn't supposed to be perfect.
True. Well, hey, let's jump into our fun news item from BGR. I'd gladly spend $16,000 on a humanoid AI robot to do all my chores. So if you guys have been following this, there's a few different players. This one's talking about Unitree Robotics. They got the $16,000 robot that's supposed to help with cooking, cleaning, and even emergency response, it says.
Right.
I don't know. Would you buy one? 16
I
grand.
would. Yeah. I would. I definitely would. Yeah. Because I did the math. So when I saw the article on the list, I did the math. So I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Because I mean, and this isn't for everybody, but let's say that you are someone who's, when you're working, when you balance out or whatever, that you're making, because I mean, attorneys, well, I don't want to pick on attorneys. Time out. But people that are, higher worth, or, professionals such as, what I mentioned, they charge what, 2-3. I mean, some attorneys charge you over $1,000 an hour if they got to go into the courtroom, right? So when you do the math, $16,000 for someone to do all your chores. If you did 8 hours of chores a week, which is maybe you cleaning your house one day, doing laundry and cleaning the kitchen every day, and whatever else you might do in your house. When you start doing the math on that, look, you might be 10 or below dollars per hour for the time that you invest. If you're making in your job, whatever your profession, if you will, averaging $100 or more an hour, it doesn't make sense. I tell people all the time, I don't change the oil in my car. I know how to change the oil in my truck, but I'm not crawling my behind up under that truck to change that oil. Look, while I'm sitting in the truck at the oil change place, they're changing the oil while I'm sitting in the truck. So while I'm sitting in the truck, I'm on the phone or I'm working, making money while they're changing the oil. And my goal while I'm sitting there is to make more money than what I just paid to change this oil in the truck.
Yep.
So I try my best. I try my best to make sure they don't get me. Because I think my truck take about 7 quarts of oil. So they get me on an upcharge. Then they want to bring me that cabin filter. Y'all seen that when they bring you the cabin filter, talk about it need to be changed. So my goal sitting there is to make more than what the oil change makes. So I need to call somebody and make me an appointment for some business. So I certainly would pay, if I could afford to. I definitely would pay someone an Android to do my chores, and then I could relax or do something else. That's me.
Yeah, I'm gonna say that my answer is probably gonna shock you guys, considering I own and operate a real estate investment technology company. I'm gonna go with I won't. I am a, believe it or not, a very old soul. I mean, I still listen to 70s and 80s music that came out before I was born. And I still jam out to it, but I'll tell you what. My dad raised me in a way where everybody has to do their part in a home, and that's what makes a family, and it creates character. It creates responsibility. And I will tell you that I am not as stern as my fiance is. She's an incredible woman, and she lets everybody know, look, I'm not here to clean up after you guys. I am, this is my domain, and I will take the majority of the effort, and she does an amazing job. But it's really everybody's part in our families to do their part, because it creates a sense of responsibility. It doesn't create a new era of very sensitive babies and kids that are now a new whatever, I don't know what we're at, gen alpha, whatever it is, right?
Yeah, I think so.
So yes, I would love to have a robot, but I think it's going to take away from life lessons that can't really be taught in school that you grow up with as a child.
I hear you. That's a good point. I was just looking at the chat. I guess some people were commenting on pickleball and asking some other questions that I think we answered, like talking about the Biden-Harris proposal. So anyway, robots. I don't know.
Did we get a lot of questions today? I don't know. You guys are the administrators, so I know we're live, but
yeah, Antonio usually monitors the chat and puts them in. So I think he puts them in the private chat so we can see them. So anyway, well, hey guys, that was awesome. That covers the news portion of the show. Let's see. I'd like to thank our sponsors: United States Real Estate Investor Advertising, Universe Media Publishing, and Ken Flipbid. Thanks to you guys, Ken Singh, Corin Millette. You guys are awesome. Appreciate you taking the time, sharing your knowledge. You know, this is really helpful for people listening in, and it helps me, you know, seeing different perspectives. So in that order, Ken and then Corwin, why don't you let people know how they can connect with you if you want them to connect?
Sure, guys. Listen, guys, first and foremost, let me thank US REI, Antonio Holman, James Brown. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a blast. You know, some of these questions were amazing. You know, and it's great to share your feelings and thoughts on so many different ideas and what's happening in today's day. So it's really nice to take some time and kind of reflect on that. By the way, guys, again, if you guys want to reach us at Flipid, we'd love to share more about it. I know Antonio and James are a big fan. They have their own URLs they could send out to you. But if you want to connect with us and so we can help you answer some questions, it's Let's Network at flipbid.com. If you guys want to reach out to us and get James or Antonio's URL, I'm more than happy to send that to you guys as well. So I appreciate you guys taking the time. Thanks so much.
Fantastic. Thanks.
All right. Well, guys, I'm pretty easy to reach, Cole Millette. I'm on social media, C Millette. You can find us or find me, Exit Realty Low Country Route, down in the Charleston, South Carolina area. Tune into my radio show, podcast, Exit Strategies radio show. We're everywhere. So, you know, we have some good conversation over there. But I tell people I'm a big guy, so it's hard for me to hide. So please feel free to reach out to me wherever, whenever. We're always here and willing to help and assist people. And James, thank you so much for having me on the show today.
Fantastic. I was glad to get you on. All right. Thanks, guys. Again, I'm your host, James Brown. I show people how they can make safe, secure returns through our pre-vetted passive investments. If you're interested, take a minute to join our private investor club at legacywealthcollective.com, and you'll be able to see some of the opportunities we come up with that we can't market openly because they're for non-accredited investors. Anyway, also huge thanks to Antonio Holman, our producer with United States Real Estate Investor. Follow and subscribe to This Month in Real Estate Investing on YouTube at youtube.com/@United States REI, or your favorite podcast app. The audio goes out to all the podcasts. If you run across any news that's interesting, events, or good suggestions for guests, feel free to let us know. Just email Antonio at UnitedStatesRealEstateInvestor.com. And remember, when one door closes, another door opens to financial freedom. Thanks, guys.
Thanks so much.